Welcome to the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy such as the Deferred Sales Trust is the best way for you to grow your wealth. Hey, I'm your host, Brett Swartz. In each episode, I am joined by some of the best financial advisors, real estate professionals, and passive wealth income advisors in the world, where they share their ideas, deal stories, and inspiration. So together we can make complex tax deferral strategies simple and passive income plans achievable. And I'm excited about our next guest. He's a true professional. He is a veteran in the finance industry, beginning since 1997. He exited mining, heavy equipment operation, welding, and long-haul truck driving. Since entering the finance industry, his clientele has ranged from those purchasing their first home, building their dream home, or investing in multiple properties for long-term cash flow. His his expertise is in the complicated. He thrives in that. He's presently ranked number 14 in the industry of over 300,000 licensed loan originators for transactions closed annually. 723 closed units for real estate investors in 2019, 707 in 2018, and 676 in 2017. And he's also a battle-worn partner of every real estate investor and entrepreneur. That's really his passion. And he wants and helps people to walk through the tough parts of building a real estate business. With that, please welcome to the show, Aaron Chapman. Hey, Aaron, how you doing?
Doing very well, Brett. How about yourself, brother?
Hey, better than I deserve. Glad to have you on the show and excited to dive in. Would you give our listeners a little bit about your background and your current focus?
So background, you hit on a little bit there with the whole mining and heavy equipment operating and all that kind of stuff. And was really interesting is that propelled me into, it's kind of weird how that propels you into a career like finance. It really just got to a point. I was at a meeting where somebody talked about before the crash, they were a loan originator. And they said, you don't have to become a loan originator because you can't find a job in anything else. And I had to crack up because I was one of two loan originators in the entire crowd. And I think back, it's like, that's the truth. Because when I left the mines in New Mexico, they had shut down the project. I had to go hunt for something that I could feed my family with. And I had a great resume, right? Cattle ranch in high school, the oil fields in Wyoming right out of high school. From there, running heavy equipment, driving truck, thousands of hours on different pieces of equipment, and then working in the mines. I thought I could get a job anywhere, and I couldn't. I was literally to the point where I was willing to take a $10 an hour truck driving job to haul landscape rock. And they turned me down because I was overqualified. I kept hearing this damn word, overqualified. Well, I was at that point, I was broken. I mean, I had zero money left. In fact, I had a coupon in my possession to go get diapers because I didn't have the capability to afford them. And on my way out of there, leaving, trying to dry the tears up because I was that beaten down, my gas light comes on in my truck. So as I go to the grocery store, I first pull up to the gas pumps, put my debit card in, prayed that it would work, and I got that decline because I was overdrawn. Rifled through my truck to find enough change to at least find something to pay for gas. Then I had to wander the parking lot because I only found a few coins in the truck. After about 2 hours of wandering that parking lot, I picked up enough to get 2 gallons of gas. Got my gas, went into the grocery store, found those diapers that corresponded with the coupon, got those. And as I'm walking out, I go face to face with a guy who is used to do all the dispatch work and the scheduling work for a company I dug swimming pools 4 years before. He asked me how things were and explained what was happening. And he said, let me take you to dinner. So he took me and my wife to dinner the following night to Red Lobster here in Mesa, Arizona. And he presented me with a business card for the branch manager of a mortgage broker shop. And so when I got that card, I had no idea what a mortgage was. All I remember was that there was this old man, this old lady on TV losing the farm from this thing called a mortgage. So it was very, very negative in my mind. But I called the guy up. He gave me an opportunity to come in and meet with him. And so I cut a foot off my hair. I shaved. My mom bought me some professional looking clothes so I could kind of look the part of what I thought a lender would look like. And they started me that weekend as a telemarketer. And let me tell you, there's very few things in life as miserable as telemarketing, especially from a guy who has the background that I had to go in and start doing that. So they gave me these lists that they got from title companies, and I would call these lists. And in calling those lists, after a couple of weeks, I developed enough leads where I convinced them to let me work some of them. So the training started with, hey, here's another loan officer. He will help you. You guys will share in the deals. And that's where it started. I went back to driving truck over the road. I got a job driving to Sacramento and back, and then Vegas and back once a week. Go to the office 3 days, try and build a business. That wasn't working. So I got out of that, went back to digging swimming pools. Get up at 3 a.m., be in the yard by 4, get home by noon or 1, get to the office by 2, work till 10 p.m., sleep 4 hours a night for a year. And then the interest rates went below 8%. And after that, I was able to start getting my feet underneath me and start building up my business to where I was able to replace my income, about 50 grand a year, my first full-time year in the industry. And that was where it started. And that was the hell that got it going. It didn't stop there. It was continuous beating all the way through to the point of really getting your feet underneath you and building a really good business.
That's amazing, and what a story of perseverance and what someone might not think is connected, but the hard work, the perseverance, and an industry, and then a down point for you financially, and then be able to be an entrepreneur and persevere. Before we go into some of the numbers and some of the ways in which you help your clients create and preserve more wealth with real estate investing as it pertains to mortgages and loans, I'm curious, Aaron, who were you growing up, and more so, what was the one gift that you were given, and how does that gift help how you help people today?
Well, there's two different things. Growing up, I was a very, very, very shy kid. I was the one hiding in the background. I didn't want to be the one out in front. In fact, when I was playing baseball in the little leagues and stuff like that, I was blessed to be able to hit home runs all the time. And the only bad part about it was the celebration at the end. I didn't like all the high fives and stuff like that. Just let me go sit down, right? I like hitting it and I like running. I just want to go sit. I really did not like to be the center of any kind of attention. And now to go to a world where you have to be out there consistently is really an interesting switch that I had to find in high school, to be able to step out there and put myself out there a little bit more. And it's become a lot easier as I get older. Secondly, I think the superpower I was blessed with was the ability to take a beating and get back up. Because one thing that life has given me is a lot of beatings, especially this industry. You've got, one, just getting started in it. Two, you've got to deal with people in the real estate industry. They're not easy to deal with. Those folks, as far as the realtor side of it, they are not, very, very few of them will be your friends, right? And then you've got just the crashes and the market and the swings. And I had my own personal accident at the same time the crash happened in 2008. I had to come back from being put in a wheelchair, had memory loss where my memory only lasts 3 minutes and all those things, and retrain my brain and come back from massive financial devastation and to an industry that was devastated, and then to rebuild at the same time the turnkey investors started working their way into Arizona. And that was where I had to really dig deep and start figuring out how to work with them. And that's where doing that got me to a position where I was able to help many people on the real estate investment side to start building a potential future for themselves, because we know retirement's not going to exist for folks. That, coupled with the ability to put myself out there, take those beatings and keep moving forward, built me into a business now where it's I'm working in 26 states, and I've got a team of 26 people. I should have 28 staff members by the end of next month, and things are amazing.
I love it. What a story, and what a comeback, and what a success. So let's dive in a little bit to how you help your clients, more than just get a loan, right? You're truly a part of their, I like to call like a dream team, right? You want someone like Aaron who's been battle tested, who's persevered not only personally, but also financially. But second, who's done so many transactions over the years, one of the top in the industry. He's seen everything. So walk us through how, Aaron helps people create and preserve more wealth with their real estate investing.
Well, the onset is getting the mindset right. So when I have that first conversation, what I've noticed is my contemporaries like to say, hey, when they have somebody referred over to them, they shoot them an application, say, fill out the application, we'll look at your credit, and then we'll talk. I like to have a conversation up front because I don't want my team putting any time and energy into something that's just not going to work, or we're not a good fit. Right. So I'll take the time up front to have a scheduled conversation. My assistant, Samantha, I hired somebody just to read my email and just to schedule my calendar. That's it. So she has me set up every 30 minutes of my life to talk with somebody new about how are they perceiving real estate investing. The mindset is the most important factor, in my opinion. Many times I've seen people step into this like a consumer spending money and going into debt because they've been trained on how to consume. They've not been trained on how to run a business, because the majority of people are working for someone else. They're pulling a W-2. They've been taught how to work in an environment. But now you got to switch your mind into a CEO of a real estate investment firm. That's not easy. So we take that first half hour conversation. I want to break that other part down, set that consumer over on the shelf, and let's talk about you as a business owner. So when we start talking about them as a business owner, it is imperative that they start to think of this as, wherever they're going to purchase. A lot of times they're doing turnkey. They're going to buy in a specific market. They're going to work with somebody who's going to source, acquire, rehab, manage, maintain their business. They literally get an operations division out in that particular market for free. Now, too often they think it's not really free because I'm paying full market value for the property. And then, I've got to pay a property manager to manage it. So how is it free? Like, well, let's think about the transaction. If you went about it by yourself, you start just driving neighborhoods looking for signs. You got your normal job, then you got to find time to drive neighborhoods looking for sale signs. Well, then you find that for sale sign, you call the realtor, right? Realtor's going to be representing both sides. Are you going to pretty much get it for market value? Especially in today's market where people driving prices up, yeah, you're going to pay fair market value more than that. Realtor has a fiduciary duty to get the maximum price they can for their seller and get the highest potential commission for themselves. So you're going to pay fair market value more than likely. Then you got to find a property manager. Then you could possibly go through 2 or 3 property managers to figure out one who actually is one you could work with that's going to work in a way that you feel does best for you. And if you have any maintenance that's got to get done, you got to find crews that do that. A lot that you have to do. Now it falls on you to do all these parts. So then after the deal's closed, where's the realtor in that deal? Where would you think that person after it's closed?
He's probably gone. He's probably on the next deal, Aaron.
Exactly. They got to market the next house. This is just my experience, the most response you're going to get, this is not every realtor, but it's a lot of them, is come Christmas time, you're going to get a card with a picture of them and their damn cat in some ugly ass sweater at Christmas. If you want to buy or sell, call me, right? That's it. That's all you get from them. When you're talking about these turnkey guys out there or these people working in these real estate investment environments, their job is to not only do all those things, but maintain the property for you, stay in contact with you on the regular. They have experience in this that you would have to go get on your own, a lot of times lose a lot to get there. There's this old saying I've heard, and I say a lot, good judgment comes from experience, and experience comes from bad judgment. They've already exercised the bad judgment. All that, you're still going to get fair market value either direction, right? You're still going to have property management either direction, but it's all the other things that you're going to miss, the failures that you don't have to take on yourself when you use somebody else's experience. All that experience is free. All those people in your process are free because you're going to pay the same, whether it be a property manager from or pay a realtor or buy through a realtor. You're going to get the same the way. All the other parts free. Operations division. Then on the other side of that, I put myself as not just any lender. The large banks have proven you can take it out of a cage, get training, it will close loans. That part's not hard. We've got that down. But it is the mindset piece that we want to get into about what we offer more so than just the closed loan. So when we're talking about experience, you'd mentioned in the first intro about where I stand in my industry. The average person in the industry, 300,000+ people employed to do what I do, does between 3 and 4 transactions per month. That's the average person. So there's a lot of people doing 1 per month. There's a lot of people doing 1 every other month. So you can see people doing 10 to 48 transactions per year is the experience they draw from to walk a investor through the process of finance in the conventional world. Well, most loan originators in my industry, they're focused on anything. They're agnostic. They don't care if it's a first-time home buyer, a cash-out refi, a FHA, VA, they don't care, right? Just whoever. They just want a deal to close, right? They got to bread their table. I made a conscious decision to focus on real investors back in 2003. I really dug deep into the real estate investing in 2009. And when we're closing in excess of 100 transactions a month, just for real estate investors, it makes us pretty close to experts in the subject. You've given statistics of over 700 transactions a year. I'm approaching 800 transactions so far just this year, 2020. I'm anticipating to break 1,200 transactions for this year. And 99% of it's real investment. We get to see where other people decide about their business. We get to see where they succeed and where they fail. So when that experience piece comes, and a real estate investor reaches out to me and say, hey, I'm facing this decision. I've got this particular question that's coming up that I got to get answered. I can give them practical data where I've seen hundreds of other people decide and who succeeded and who failed and why, and they can make a decision based on practical data, not speculation or theory.
Love it. Absolutely. So you're truly an advisor and truly a dream team member. And you can find Aaron, by the way, at aaronchapman.com. That's aaronchapman.com. So Aaron,
sometimes that particular site acts up. So aaronbchapman.com will also work. So usually either one will work at different times. So try aaronchapman.com and go for Aaron B. Chapman. And if you see a redneck sitting on a porch, you're at the right spot.
Excellent. So let's talk a little bit about capital gains tax and some of the mistakes you mentioned people make, and or some of the things about overpaying. You mentioned, there's times where people are paying fair market value. Where do you think values are at right now, and how does the 1031 exchange oftentimes, I know for me and my clients has been a frustration because you're selling high and buying higher. I'm curious if you've seen the same things recently in the last year or two.
Or see a lot of it. And the difficulty right now is selling high and buying higher, or even buying equivalent, is trying to find transactions that will fit within the window of time that you're given, right? And especially when people are selling large homes, like in California, you've got a large chunk of capital you got to deploy. That becomes very, very difficult, especially when you're talking about trying to fit, several $100,000 into, say, 5 or 6 transactions, and one falls out. Now you got a major problem on your hands, right? So now you got to identify as much as you can, but you have to play this game. It's not an easy thing. The other thing of it is trying to process that many transactions at once. That's tough. It's real tough. For us as a lender, we're very good. I've got a phenomenal team, and this team is very battle worn. In fact, the average person on my processing side has over 20 years experience. But when you're handing them 9 transactions to close at the exact same time, any variant in any single one of those can impact the other 8. So sometimes they got to process trial files 2, 3, 4 times. There's this misnomer out there that people believe, well, if I do 9 at a time, it should be easier. Oh no, it's 10 times more complicated. So every time you touch one file, you have to touch the other 8. And you have to make that change within the other 8, because every transaction has data about the others within it. So it's really a very, very complicated process. And I have a lot of those going on right now like that. And if you have an appraisal issue, an inspection issue, and you have to peel that one out and put another one back in, is it going to work within the time frame of the 1031? There's way too many different things going all at once.
Yeah, we agree. And that's part of what we started our company, to help people escape feeling trapped by capital gains tax, and also have a backup plan for failed 1031 exchange. We just saved a failed 1031 in Georgia, 128 unit apartment complex, passed his 45 identification period, and he moved into the Deferred Sales Trust. And it's a common story, right? And unfortunately, also the baby boomers, what's happening right now is baby boomers are looking to retire from a lot of this, right? They've made their wealth over the last 20, 30, 40 years of investing in real estate, and they're looking to be done with the toilets, the trash, the liability, and or just sit on the sidelines and wait for a while until the market makes a little more sense. I mean, there's a little more inventory. And we think we're kind of at a crest. I don't know where you think where the market's at right now, where probably we're about as high of the peak as we can be for values, and we think the big corrections is coming. It could be 10, 15, could be 20%, and that's kind of the market cycles we've seen. It might take 5 to 7 years to get back up again to normal levels or levels that we're at right now. So I'm curious, where do you think we are with values, and what do you foresee with the future of the economy, the election, the COVID-19? I mean, so many moving parts. What is your take also on interest rates? There's a lot of questions there, but I'm going to just open it up to you there.
So when it comes to the crest of values, that's a very interesting question. I think some of our coastal markets are definitely the ones that are going to see the greatest impact with respect to that. Those are the ones that take the biggest swings anyway. But when you consider what's going on out there, there's a lot of people leaving certain areas. You've got a lot of I'm afraid that those particular areas, the higher price areas, are the ones that are going to be experiencing that crest. When we're talking about the majority of the markets I spend a lot of my time in, a lot of the South and the Midwest, those particular areas, you're not seeing a ton of fluctuation as far as values are concerned. So you're seeing that slow climb as far as appreciation. So that being the situation, I tend to think that those particular markets might maintain more stability than something like a California or New York or a King County, somewhere like out in Washington. All those areas I think might have a little bit higher risk for overvaluation, or at least values being impacted. But only time will tell. I mean, we can see it go the other direction. But I think the COVID thing might actually play into values having that stability in some of those markets. And the reason I say that is when you think about what's going on to people's employment, right? We've got employment issues. We have the fact that we've changed human dynamics. Human behavior has changed. They're not going out and getting around each other as often. You also have a situation where they're trying to distance themselves even more so from their neighbors, right? So if you're talking about apartment complexes, and I know that this is a subject where a lot of people are kind of worried, folks are not really, they're having a hard time staying in 2-bedroom, 1-bath apartments while they're trying to work from home, and they've got 2 kids in there, and the kids are having to do a lot of schooling from home. And then you've got a neighbor who just lost his job, who's drinking during the day and beating his kid. That's a shared wall you want to get away from. And we have to think about what's going on here with humans. So what do they want to do? They want to get out of that. Now, do they have the financial wherewithal to purchase right now? There's a good solid chance they don't, because things are changing within the dynamics of lending and what you can lend on and what you can't. Even though rates are low, qualifying continues to tighten up, especially in the owner-occupied world. So when you consider that, I would believe, would be more apt to want a single-family residence. They want to be able to rent someplace where they can have a yard, they can have a gap between the neighbors, and be able to continue to work from home in a little more comfortable environment. So because of that, I'm thinking more of your middle America might continue to stay more stable than your outlying areas because of those facts. Because they're going to be, rentals, they're going to have places that people are going to continue to have to occupy, and your real estate investor is going to keep that market alive. Real estate investors right now are having, they're having one of the best times in history as far as acquisitions of real estate and getting cash flowing real estate, because the demand for rentals right now in the single family market is amazing. I'm hearing from all kinds of folks across the country that they've got a line set up right there to rent these single families that they didn't have before. They have people paying their bills on time. Now, is there a worry about with the stimulus going away? Sure, there's those worries, but I have not seen anything so far that has landed on my desk to indicate that we would be seeing a serious drop in rents being collected.
Yeah, so well said. Lots of good context there, and I tend to agree with basically everything you're saying there, and it all makes sense. And so that being said, if you're a real estate investor right now, or maybe put it to Aaron, like when are you looking to buy, or are you buying, or what is your basic thought on acquisitions at this time and or selling at this time? Curious what you personally are doing.
I sell and acquire as it makes sense, right? So if I see something that I believe is, well, right now I haven't really sold anything. I've just acquired. And so when I'm talking about the acquisition piece, it's does the deal make sense or does it not? So I encourage every investor to have their baselines. You need to have a reasonable, at least need to reasonably believe that property will stay rented for the time that you own it. Because if you can't get it rented, I don't care what any other metric is. If nobody's going to occupy that space, it doesn't matter what the pro forma says, what the pretend cash on cash return is, your so-called cap rates, all that don't matter if nobody is going to occupy the property. So number one is that property one that people would reasonably want to rent. If that is the case, you're already ahead of the game. So what I have everybody doing, we're going to do a little bit of math together so I can kind of help kind of illustrate what my point here. So let's say we're doing $100,000 purchase on a single family residence. We're going to put 20% down. We're going to go for a 1% rent to value ratio with $200 a month in cash flow. Does that sound like an anomaly to you, or does that sound like a pretty common deal?
Seems reasonable.
Very, very reasonable. In fact, some people tell me I'd never buy that. It's only $200 a month in cash flow. I'm like, work with me here. We're just doing numbers for the moment, right? He said, well, what's my cash on cash return? It's a cash on cash returns out the window. I mean, in fact, cash on cash and the pro forma metrics, all those is made up. That's just somebody else's math to try and figure out, this is what you basically believe. They're trying to give you some sort of tool to break it down. We're just going to go with simplicity. So if you've got $100,000 property and you're putting 20% down, what is the dollar amount of that 20%?
So you said at 20% for $100,000 down?
$100,000 purchase,
Uh-huh.
20% down.
Right. So it'd be
What's your
20,000?
20,000.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know. You're thinking I'm going to throw some major algorithms out at you, but no, we're going to, yeah, you're putting on your major thinking cap. So
Yep.
20,000, right? So that means you're financing what dollar amount?
80,000.
80,000, right? So, and if you are keeping somebody in that property for, let's say you did a 30-year fix and you kept it those entire 30 years and you keep it reasonably rented for the entire time you own it, who paid off the loan?
Your renters.
The tenant, correct. You just got
Mhm.
to be the pass through, right? So the tenant paid off that 80,000. So let's take 80,000, we'll divide it by 30 because it's going to take your tenant 30 years to pay it off. Now I realize there's an amortization table. I'm not going to get into that. We're going to stick simple this time. So 80,000 divided by 30. What dollar amount do you get there?
It's $2,666.
And 66 cents, right? And the
Mhm.
six keeps going. So $2,666.66. You divide that into the 20,000 because that was your money. That was your investment into the deal, right?
Mhm.
What's that percentage?
It's coming, people. It's coming. 7.4. I got 7.4 times it goes into that. You want me to do it the other way? It's
The other way.
0.13%.
Yep. So 13.33% is what that actually is, because your calculator is not putting the decimal point in the right point, but ultimately it's 13.33%. So if the people want to take the quick math on that, double check us. $2,666.66 divided into 20,000 is 13.33% of 20,000. That means every year your initial investment 20,000 is growing by 13.33% of that original 20,000, provided you keep a person in there before any
Mhm.
cash flow or anything else. You're getting that gain because eventually they're paying off the 80,000, right?
Correct.
That right there outperforms most other instruments by itself. Now, let's get into the fact that we live in an inflationary environment. What do you believe the rate of inflation to be today?
Probably at least three. It could be. You could argue 4 or 5, but at least three.
So when you get into the inflation piece, I like to go to John Williams' Shadow Stats. I also like to go to the Chapwood Index, and people can go there while you're listening. Just type in shadowstats.com, and you can go into the alternate data across the top of the page. You'll see alternate data. Scroll down to inflation, and you can see he's got two different charts there. Well, the chart towards the bottom will show a blue line and a red line. So one of them, the lower line, I believe that's the red line, is what the Fed tracks, the CPI, the Consumer Price Index. The Fed also likes to quote from the Personal Consumption Expenditures Index. Well, when you look at both of those, you start figuring, okay, what this leads us to believe that the Fed is looking at everything we're spending money on: Consumer Price Index, Personal Consumption Expenditures Index, and then you peel back the layers and see what's really baked into that. You start to find out that those are the most mislabeled damn things in the world because they don't factor in food costs, energy costs, and they don't factor in parts of housing. And I think air is the only other thing that humans need to survive, right? Food, water, shelter, air. Well, California is the only state in the world that has figured out how to tax air. You got to pay more to live in great air, right? Outside of that, you start looking at the rest of the world, and they have food costs are going through the roof. In fact, I think it's the meat index, last I saw, has an 18% increase year over year, right? Then you get into energy as far as water. Water is not going backwards in price. In fact, if you looked at your water bill, you start to see that what you're paying per gallon used on your water bill continues to go up. Same with your power bill. So we're not seeing energy going down. And housing, we just talked about it going through the roof. So when you factor these things in, the actual rate of inflation is bridging close to 8%, according to what John Williams is showing here. In fact, if you actually pay for their subscription, it's like $1 a year, you can go and you can do a calculator, see $100 worth over 30 years ago. Staggering. You'll need, like, I think if I remember correctly, for me to equal the buying power of $100 in 1990, when I was in high school, I would need $1,100 today to match that.
Wow.
And I'm going off of memory here, so I'm gonna have to go in there and make that calculation, but that's insane. So how I can show that same thing here is I'm going to share with you guys where some real values to come in this. So let's talk about, because of inflation, we get to raise rents, right? The average last I read for apartments was 3.6%. Well, if you can raise apartments 3.6%, it seems reasonable to be able to raise the rents on a single family residence by 3%, right? So he said the rent to value ratio on this was 1%. So that's $1,000 a month, correct? What is
Correct.
3% of 1,000?
Say it one more time.
What is 3% of $1,000?
It's $300.
You sure?
It's 3% of $1,000.
Mhm.
It's
Much more
$30.
disappointing.
Sorry, it's
$30.
$30. Yes.
You know, there's a lot of people that came with that exact same thing. That's what just pops in your mind, right? But then you get really disappointed. You figure out it's only $30. I only went up $30. Crap. Well, let's talk about how awesome that $30 is. We talked about $200 a month in cash flow. Well,
Correct.
it's reasonable to believe the first year's cash flow is $230. They're probably going to jump your taxes real fast unless you're buying in certain areas you shouldn't. And the insurance would pretty much be close to the same. So let's say the next year you raised it by $30. Now you get $200 a month in cash flow. How much did your cash flow jump up by?
If it went from 230 to another 30, is that what you said?
From 200 to 230. What did it go to?
Well, it went up by $30. And so the question is, what percentage of that is did it go up? Just,
Yep.
Well, it'd be $30 divided by 200, right?
Correct. Just
15%.
divide by 2, you get the same thing.
Yeah.
And what was that?
15%.
15%. How sexy is that? We already found that you get, just by them paying off your mortgage, your initial investment goes up by 13.33% of the original investment. Now your cash flow can go up by 15% just by raising the rents 3%. And that's a compound growth. The first one's not compound. The second one's compound. Every time you raise, it compounds, right? But the lender doesn't get to raise the payment on the loan to pace inflation, right? They got to accept the exact same dollar amount for 30 years. So here's the chart that I want to be able to share with you.
Yeah.
So
sure.
we're showing a 30-year loan, $100,000 acquisition price, $80,000 loan, just like we talked about before. We're going to go off of 7% inflation because, you know, real estate investors are going to be a little bit more discerning with where they put their money at. Mm-hmm. I'm just typing in a 4.5% rate. Rates are actually, I'm locking them significantly lower right now, but I'm going to do this just for the sake of the transaction. We're going to talk about this. Now, here we're showing the payment, the principal and interest payment. And it actually, I can scroll all the way up to day one and go all the way down $405.35 per month. Then you couple the interest of $65,925 being charged right here. You add that to the principal that you're paying back of $80,000. A person is going to pay over 30 years. You're going to filter from your tenant through you to the bank $145,925.37. Many times people think, man, that's a lot of money. That's nearly double what I borrowed. I want to pay it off faster. I'm explaining to them, don't. The longer you take to pay, the less you actually pay. And here we get to show with the 7% inflation, you recalculate every dollar as it leaves your hands, right, to make a payment. And how the value of the dollar is declining. Its buying power is declining over that 30 years. You're not paying back the 80,000 principal. You're not paying the 65,000 interest. Right here shows after you really factor what inflation does to the dollar, you're only paying back $60,926.91. As you raise rents to get a compound growth because of inflation, you're paying back a compound decline because the instrument you're paying back with is losing its buying power. Look at this. This is another interesting fact here. $405.35. 30 years from now will be equivalent to what $49.94 is today. That will be the cost of a latte 30 years from now. So that, to me, shows where the most powerful part of real estate investing is. It's leveraging high, leveraging long, and paying off slow. Don't just leverage like crazy just to get stuff, right? You leverage in the place where somebody else pays it back for you, and you get the capability to continue to increase your income off of it as they're paying back that leverage. Somebody who's willing to put up $80,000 for your business, basically buying 80% of your for you. Pay me back later. Not only pay me back, it's going to lose extreme value over the time that it takes you to pay back. Why would we ever want to put more money down, buy down an interest rate, or pay it off any faster than the time frame that they gave us? Right? Then this is not my numbers. This actually comes from the professor of accounting at Kennesaw State University. He heard me on a podcast, called me up and says, you need to come speak to students. Not only did I go speak to his students in November 2007, I think it was 18, maybe 19. I can't remember. It's amazing how fast things goes. I think it was last year, 2019. Then he also created this tool for me to be able to illustrate exactly how powerful that is. And I have an app being built right now. They're right now working on the pretty parts of it, so that way I can release to people where they can calculate this on their own and see where the real value of real estate investing is. It's not the cash flow, it's not the cap rates, it's not the cash on cash return, it's the loan.
Absolutely love it. Now I want to apply that to the capital gains tax, because this is what we say. We say, hey, don't pay that back to the government, defer it all, and the government gives you an interest-free loan essentially to invest it into wherever you want, as long as it's investment or business related, and you can live off the interest that it produces. So the recent deal we just closed, this was a 5,000 acres in Texas, and we helped them defer hundreds of thousands of dollars. They did a partial 1031 and then a partial deferred sales trust. But essentially, they're deferring all of this money at zero interest, and they're able to invest it and then live off the cash flow. So I think if I'm connecting it correctly, Aaron, not only are they're getting the best of both worlds, right? They're able to loan the government's money for as long as they want, and we like to say that most of our clients like to pay that loan back the second day to never. Right. And they're just going to keep it producing cash flow and other instruments. And so I wonder if your calculator, maybe we should get together after this and powwow on using that and connecting the calculator we use now, because I think that's powerful.
That would be actually very, very awesome, because one of the things, it goes back to what I was talking about with the clients, is keep your team together, number one, right? Getting the right people out there, boots on the ground, getting the right lender who understands it, because lenders can still loan, but it's helping you to understand what it is you're doing as far as the dynamics of how that financing benefits you. You get a lot of bad information out there from folks saying to, buy down your rate or put more money down or all those things. And then you couple with what you guys have the opportunity to give people, that just is super powering people's businesses, their real estate investment businesses, and giving options for the future. And what I hear, some people might say, well, when it comes to the tax thing, well, if you're avoiding tax and whatever, that you need to be doing your fair share. I have no problem with my fair share. I pay my fair share and then some. But if I have the capability to use those funds to create freedom, what I mean by freedom here is I have the freedom to be able to build more business, to help more people, to give more housing to other folks, to decide what I'm going to do with my tax dollars. Not some bitch up there in an office someplace has no idea what the street's doing, no clue what people really need. They're doing more in the sense of just squandering capital on somebody's great idea that's not even a good idea, instead of us who are helping our own social structure and building our own infrastructure and creating jobs and creating housing. That's where the real freedom comes in, to be able to use those funds for better reasons.
You got it. Yeah. And that's one of the most common misconceptions is that this is some, the avoidance versus just deferral, or this is somehow the IRS, frowns upon it. They actually incentivize it. They put these in place so that government actually, is out of the way, and the tax dollars can flow, which creates more jobs, which actually creates more tax revenue, which is the study of macroeconomics. But we digress. And by the way, for those who are listening on the podcast, just no video, we have this all on YouTube. You can go to our Capital Gains Tax Solutions YouTube channel, and you can watch Aaron and I, and he does the little Excel profile video going on there on a screen share. So in case you're wondering on that last segment there. That being said, Aaron, are you ready for the lightning round?
Fire it away.
All right. Knowing what
my answers will be even discernible, but I'll take it.
I'm sure it'll be great. Knowing what you know now, if you go back to your 25-year-old self, Aaron, what's the one golden nugget you would make sure you would tell yourself?
Not listening to a lot of the people that were telling me what I should do with my money. Because it turned out that there's a lot of folks out there that, humans are the apex predator, except when it comes to other humans. And I had a lot of people preying upon what I had, because I was doing very well in my early 20s in this industry. And so I was listening to the wrong people. Got it.
Thank you. What is the one book you've recommended or gifted the most in the past year?
It would be, well, there's my books. So I've been peddling those like crazy. But so that is book number one is the Point Your Head and Heart, Your Ass Will Follow. Number two is Gratitude, A Practical Application. Number three is Quit Jerking Off. Number four is Steel Running, as a steel chainsaw. And so it is, I wrote one big book, and I take each chapter and I just wrap it and I send it off as its own individual book, no longer than 30 pages. But the one that I push more so than the ones that I wrote is by Charles Handel, The Master Key System. It is not just a book. It is an actual, it's an education process on how to actually run your mind and how to control it instead of being controlled. And instead, don't just read it, take every chapter every day for a week and do the exercise associated with it, and you'd be amazed what happens to you.
Love it. Charles Hamill, Master, sorry, one more time. Master
Key System.
Master Key
Charles
System.
F. Hamill, Haanel, I think, something like that.
Okay.
And if you listen to Napoleon Hill, he references the Master Key. That's this. He was a correspondence course in 1910.
Excellent. Love it. Give me a mobile or digital resource you recommend for your business.
Text. that has actually done a lot for me. The ability to, my voicemail fills up so fast, I just tell people text me. And then I have my assistant take the text and run with it there. To me, that's the greatest resource there is, because I can be handling so many things while people are communicating with me. I can pass that off and she can take care of it. So yeah, text is the best resource for me.
Love it. Do you use a certain application for that to manage the text, or you just
I should, but I don't. All I have is just what was embedded on the phone. And so I just forward the text while I'm on the phone with somebody else. I don't even read it, just forward it.
Hey, fair enough. You're doing 800 to 1,200 transactions a year. That's all you need. Favorite leadership quote, Aaron, or theme that you try to live by?
Solid question there. I would say favorite quote. I mean, you got me there in all of that right there, because the thing that I tend to lead by is like that I need to go forth and just do it. If as far as leadership is concerned, a person that I think the definition of it all itself is leading, being in front. And so how I live my business is I can't ask anything of my staff that I'm not willing to do more of. I have very, very high expectations from them, but I have extremely high expectations for myself. And quite frankly, I don't even have a goal. My goal is so unattainable, I'll never achieve it. Because I don't believe that a person who sets a goal to actually stop on is going to end up receding backwards. So I don't have achievable goals. I'll just keep churning at them until I die.
Love it. What are you curious about right now?
I'm really curious of what's really going on in the background when you're looking at the markets and what's driving them, and the fact that we have over $4 billion a day being invested into just the mortgage-backed securities markets by the Fed, what they're putting into the treasuries, and the fact that they're buying corporate bonds. I'm curious about the end game. I'm curious about what that end play is, because that's a lot of money being pushed out there, and what is really going to happen as a result of all this.
Yeah, well said. Last question, and then we'll remind listeners where they can find you. And this is, I think, one of my favorite questions, because it helps me to in our audience to connect with you here. So, after all your success, Aaron, after your story of perseverance, after becoming the top in your industry, helping countless individuals create and preserve more wealth, how do you, Aaron, stay centered in your values, and how do you stay encouraged to reach for new heights?
It's all about somebody else. It has nothing to do with me. So the more I focus on how I can be sure that others get what they want out of life, my life is just kicking ass. I'm blessed to have 26 employees working on just the deals that come in through me. And to kind of illustrate how I see that is, I absolutely must create opportunity. I need to take whatever resources come through me and be able to distribute those in ways that other people have opportunity, to the extent that one morning I was up and I was late for a phone call, because I was trying to finish a workout, get in there, cook breakfast, get some food in me so I can go about my day, because my days are heavy duty. And then I realized I was so behind that I walked into my daughter's room. She was recently working at a bakery. And I walked in and said, "Are you working at all anymore?" She goes, "No, I don't know if they're going to open the bakery back up." I said, "Come in here and sit down." I said, "What did they pay you?" And she explained what her pay was. I wrote a check out in my checkbook for $200 more, and I slid it to her. She goes, "What is this for?" I said, "I will never cook for myself again." I put her on payroll. I gave her an opportunity to continue to work, but I also created more opportunity for myself. So now I can take the time I used to put into that and put it into continue to build my business. And when I started doing those things, I added 2 more people after that. So the more I can focus where I am best suited, the more I can allow other people to focus where they're best suited, and we're creating a greater economy as a result.
Absolutely love it. And for those listeners who want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
Just go to aaronbchapman.com. That's the absolute best way. You'll see me sitting on my porch. It's my office in Missouri. They also, if they want to check me out and make sure of my licensing, they can go to the NMLS website, Nationwide Mortgage Licensing System or Service, one of the two. And they just go to the consumer page, consumer access, type in either my name or my NMLS ID, which is 267844. You can see all the licenses that I have and whether or not there's any complaints against me. And if
Love
you're
it,
wanting
Aaron.
to put a complaint out there, call me first.
Yeah, sounds good. Love it, Aaron. Well, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, sharing your story, and sharing with us so much about how to create and preserve more wealth. Really appreciate you, and I want to encourage you to keep using the gifts you've been given to bless other people and help them create and preserve more wealth with their finances. And with that, I also want to thank our listeners for listening to another episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions Podcast. As always, we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy such as the Deferred Sales Trust is the best way for you to grow your wealth. If we can help you at all with anything related to selling highly appreciated stock, business, primary home, commercial real estate, or any other highly appreciated asset, please reach out to us. Go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com and schedule your one-on-one consultation and download the free ebook. We appreciate you. And if you're a business professional listening to this, check out our brand new coaching program. We're helping you explode your business using this Deferred Sales Trust as the number one way to attract high net worth clients and help them solve their issues. You can go to experttaxsecrets.com for that one. That's experttaxsecrets.com. And with that, we wish you well. Thank you so much. And please rate, review, and subscribe if you